Superintendent Chalmers. Come in, come in.
In your cooking, Skinner. What's the occasion?
A lauk It's a hearty soup with root vegetables, potatoes, and pork sausages.
People ever closing the goddamn door?
The early 2000s called, and they want their song back.
Yugi. Always a pleasure. But let's save the music for later. Chalmers, would you like a drink while you wait for the soup to finish cooking?
That would be delightful, Seymour.
Yeah, I'll just be a moment.
I must say, Seymour, your culinary skills have certainly improved since our last meal together.
As Seymour returns with drinks, noticing the tension between Chalmers and Yugi.
Well, I've been practicing, Superintendent. And I aim to please.
Oh, I'm sure you do, Skinner.
Now, let's enjoy our meal. Chalmers, I've set the table for us in the dining room.
Thank you, Seymour. This looks like it will be a most enjoyable lunch.
They exit for the dining room, leaving Yugi behind.
Damn it, the latvia is burnt.
Yugi bursts in, repeating his previous line. Haven't you people ever heard of closing the goddamn door? Shadow follows Yugi inside, rolling his eyes, and adds, the early 2000s called, and they want their song back.
Yugi, this isn't the time for your humor. I've ruined the latvia. I can't believe it.
Oh, poor babe. Can't handle a little bird soup.
This was a special dish for Superintendent Chalmers. I was trying to impress him.
I'm sorry, Skinner, but maybe you can salvage something. If it's still edible, Chalmers might not even notice.
You're right. I won't let this ruin the day. I'll think of something else to serve.
Oh, a surprise dessert. How thoughtful.
I'll go see what I can do. Maybe I can salvage the soup or come up with an alternative.
Whatever.
Skinner exits the room, leaving Yugi and Shadow behind.
The latvia is burnt. What am I gonna do now?
Skinner looks out the window, noticing the Bill of Rights billboard.
Yeah, that could work. I'll climb out the window and get a Bill of Rights sandwich instead.
Yugi bursts in, repeating his previous line, and Shadow follows him inside, rolling his eyes and adding, the early 2000s called, and they want their song back.
I need to figure out how to prepare this substitute. Maybe I can make a delicious sandwich with all the amendments inside.
Skinner ponders the challenge ahead.
I'll need some luck to pull this off, but I'm determined to impress Chalmers. I can't let this day be a complete disaster.
Skinner begins to devise a plan in his head.
This could be a stroke of genius. I'll make a Bill of Rights sandwich that's unforgettable.
Skinner exits the room, leaving Yugi and Shadow behind as he sets out to obtain the necessary ingredients for his new dish.
Superintendent Chalmers. Come in, come in. I was just about to sit down for lunch.
Is that smoke I see?
No, it's just steam. I'm making a steamed version of the lauk. It's a traditional Latvian dish.
Steamed locksmeezy. I've never heard of such a thing.
Trust me, Chalmers. It's delicious. And it's the perfect dish to impress you with.
Yugi bursts in, repeating his previous line, and Shadow follows him inside, rolling his eyes and adding, "The early 2000s called and they want their song back."
Yugi, could you please close the door? We're trying to have a civilized conversation here.
I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to have an opinion.
Chalmers, I assure you that the steamed locksmeezy is a culinary masterpiece. Just give it a try and you'll see.
I'll hold you to that, Seymour. But I have to admit, I'm a bit concerned about the smoke.
I've got it under control. Just give me a moment.
Seymour heads to the kitchen to address the smoke.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Bill of Rights soup, a regional delicacy known as locksmeezy in some parts of Latvia.
Skinner, I must admit I'm confused. This isn't the steamed locksmeezy you promised me.
My apologies, Chalmers. In some parts of Latvia, they call this dish the Bill of Rights soup.
I've never heard of such a thing. I don't recall this dish being mentioned anywhere on the menu.
I understand, Chalmers, but I assure you, it's a traditional dish. I just wanted to surprise you with something unique.
Skinner, I'm not amused. This is not acceptable. I expected a traditional Latvian dish, not some made-up soup.
I'm sorry, Chalmers. I truly am. I truly am. I wanted to impress you, but I can explain. There was a mix-up at the market, and I had to improvise.
You don't want to hear it, Skinner. I'm disappointed in you.
I understand, Chalmers. I let you down. I'll make it up to you. I promise.
Oh, I'm sure that'll make everything better.
I'll think about it, Skinner. But don't expect a repeat invitation anytime soon.
I understand, Chalmers. I'll make things right.
In this scene, Skinner's long-standing crush on Chalmers is evident in his desperate attempts to impress him. Despite his mistakes, the addition of Yugi and Shadow serves to highlight the absurdity of the situation and adds a comedic element to the scene.
Skinner, is that smoke I see coming from the kitchen?
It's just therianthropy. Don't worry, it's completely harmless.
Therianthropy in the kitchen? How is that even possible?
Well, it's a rare occurrence, but it happens. I assure you it's not a fire.
Skinner, I'm afraid I don't believe you. I'd like to see it for myself.
I'm sorry, Chalmers. I can't let you in. It's a sensitive situation. I'll take care of it.
You Skinner, this is ridiculous. You can't just keep me out like this. I demand to see what's going on.
I'm sorry, Chalmers. I've made a mess of things. I'll clean it up and we can talk later.
In this scene, there is a hint of a possible romantic tension between Chalmers and Skinner, as Chalmers demands to see what's happening in the kitchen and becomes frustrated when Skinner refuses to let him in. The addition of Yugi and Shadow serves to add humor to the scene.
I'm glad you enjoyed Latvia, Chalmers. I really put my heart into it.
It was delicious. Skinner, I must admit, I've never had a latvia quite like that one.
It was a bit of a mishap, but I managed to salvage it. It's all part of the fun, right?
Well, I see. Still, I can't help but notice the smoke coming from the house.
Oh, that's just therianthropy. It's completely harmless. I'll explain it to you another time.
Skinner, this isn't the time for your tricks. I'm going home now. I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm sorry, Chalmers. I'll clean up the mess and we can talk about it later.
I'll hold you to that, Skinner. Good night. Good night.
Good night, Chalmers. I'll see you tomorrow.
In this scene, there is a clear romantic tension between Chalmers and Skinner as Chalmers expresses his enjoyment of the latvia, while Skinner struggles to hide his mistakes. The addition of Yugi and Shadow serves to add humor to the scene and highlights the absurdity of Skinner's excuses.